Hello and welcome to the Goalist podcast. I'm your host, Alicia. It has been some time since I have posted a new episode. I was trying to do them bi-weekly. There's been a lot going on personally. There's a lot going on in the world. It's hard to launch a new podcast and to stay on top of it. We have had a great first 10 episodes. I've learned a lot. I leave every episode feeling inspired, and I hope that my guests do too, and that listeners are also getting really inspired and are enjoying. I've been so thankful to see that there have been listeners from other parts of the country, other parts of the world, even. It's reached over 20,000 people on TikTok. I didn't realize how much energy, effort, time, and even money into resources starting a podcast would be. I've learned a lot. There are improvements that I'd like to make. Um, Definitely a lot of lessons learned. That's the whole point in the goal list. Yeah, I'm excited for season 2 and to take some time to set that up. With all that being said, today's guest is a friend of mine, Elizabeth Grossman. She is so lovely to talk to, and we had a really great conversation about backpacking in Europe. And I think that's a really great place to leave season 1. This is a really common goal. It's also a very scary goal, especially if you are a solo woman. I've been scared of that. So I think Ellie gives some really good tips on how she managed that. And I'm really excited to share it all with you. So thank you for listening and stay tuned for season 2. I'm excited for it. Hi, how are you?
I'm good.
I'm so excited to talk today. We're talking about your experience backpacking Europe. I've been wanting to do that. It's something that's been on my list for a long time and I haven't done yet. So I'm really excited to hear about your experience, maybe some tips on how to do it without, I don't know, running into too many issues. 'Cause I know traveling can be difficult when you're not too prepared. So when did you go backpack Europe and how long was that? And what countries did you hit?
I was there 3 years ago, so summer of 2022. I spent about a little over 5 months traveling. I think I hit 10 countries, not including the Vatican, which I guess technically counts as a country, but 10 actual countries that I stayed in. Yeah, so it was a while.
Yeah, that is some time, and that's a lot of places to hit. About how long were you in each area?
It really depended. I stayed in London for a full month because I had a bunch of friends who lived there and I had done a semester abroad in London. So it felt like a nice,
Mm.
easy place to start and dip my toes into solo traveling before I put myself in a country where I didn't speak the language and I didn't know anyone and I didn't know the place. But I think an average, I was in each country for maybe 2 to 3 weeks, and then I would travel between different cities in each country. So probably I'd spent like 2 to 7 nights per city.
That's a really good idea to start somewhere you're more familiar with, the language, and with friends. So, did you backpack alone most of the time or with other people?
A lot of the trip I was by myself. There were points where I met up with people. I have a friend from London, and later she met up with me in Croatia. I have cousins who planned a last minute trip to Austria, so I switched my plans to go meet them. A good portion of the trip, I was by myself. Sometimes I traveled with people who I had met previously. But yeah, I would say for the most part, it was me by myself planning the trip and making plans to meet other people I knew if they happened to be accessible.
Well, that's neat. Is this something you dreamed of doing for a long time?
Yeah, so my cousin and I were supposed to travel Europe together. We're the same age, and we were going to do a post-graduation trip. But then we graduated in 2020, so traveling was not an option for us. It just worked out that I had the summer off. So I decided I was going to take advantage of that and go. I've always loved traveling. I've always wanted to see more places. And it just seemed like the perfect time when I didn't have a job for the summer. So I was like, I might as well go now.
Yeah, that's awesome. What did planning look like? Were you prepared ahead of time or was it more spontaneous?
It was more spontaneous. Europe over summer is a bit tricky to be super spontaneous just because so many people are traveling. And especially because it was 2022 and it was like the first time that people were really traveling post COVID. It was crowded that summer. I noticed that a lot of hostels booked up a lot faster than I expected them to. I would say on average, I tried to plan a month in advance. I went to London, had a loose plan for that, and then loosely had the next place planned towards the end of my last week in London. I booked my next couple weeks worth of hostels, trains, planes, whatever I needed, accommodations and transport. And then the day to day was more spontaneous on the go. I think I had a list of certain things that I knew I had to see in each city. And then I made sure that I had time to hit those. Other than that, it was more if people that I met in my hostel had a recommendation, or if someone was like, you have to go here, or if I was walking around and something looked cool and I wanted to stop and explore that more, then I left time to be open to that.
Oh, that's great. So your route was planned as you were going from
Yeah,
the
I had a general
well,
idea of the order that I wanted to do each country in.
mm,
And yeah, there were some changes along the way. Like I was supposed to do Italy for a full month and I ended up doing 3 weeks. So I could go to Austria for a next week. But overall, I had the list of which countries I wanted to hit.
yeah, that is not also a hard time for me. 2022. I moved to LA in 21 and stayed in Airbnb, and they were all booked up. I ended up spending like $2,000 on a place because there was nothing.
Yeah.
Crazy time. How did you pack and prepare? Or because usually you just backpack, right? How do you know what all you needed and how much clothes to have?
I had a carry-on suitcase and then my backpack. I did have a larger suitcase that I brought to London. I left with a friend because I was there in early spring and it was still wet and rainy and cold. The rest of Europe was so much easier because it was hot and warm everywhere. I didn't really need anything heavy. It was just shorts, bathing suits, dresses, maybe one pair of linen pants, and a light sweater. I will say I'm not usually a packer in advance. I'm usually very day of with my packing. But for this trip, I laid out all my clothes a couple weeks in advance and I would go through it and make sure it all fit. I would pack it and then unpack it and then repack it just to make sure that it fit every single time. It was very much a process of how many outfits does this one shirt match with and how many times can I actually wear it. I tried to build more of a capsule wardrobe. Everything that I brought was either blue, white, beige, or green. If you looked at my
Nice.
suitcase, all the same color, which just made it so much easier to travel with or to fit into a small suitcase. I had shampoo bars and conditioner bars to save space, tried to be as minimalistic as possible, like the bare minimums for makeup, skincare, etc. Just the essentials. I would do laundry in the sinks or find laundromats along the way, but it was a lot of being an outfit repeater all summer, which was fine by me.
That's a good idea. Clothes take up so much space.
Yeah, you need less than you think you do, especially because going to Europe, you want to buy clothing. My policy was if I bought new clothes, I had to leave a shirt behind because it just wouldn't all fit in my suitcase. I kind of wish I had brought less stuff with me so I had more room to buy stuff there.
That makes sense. Yeah. You like plan for every day and don't realize what you're going to buy.
Exactly.
Is there anything that you regret bringing that you're like, I didn't need this, or that you regret not bringing?
I had an interesting situation with my umbrella. I went out, I didn't have an umbrella for some reason when I was packing. And I was like, I'm going to London for a month in the spring. I'm going to need an umbrella. So I went around, got an umbrella, which was more expensive than I expected. And then it did not rain at all in London. So I never used my umbrella. I left it behind and I got to Paris and it was pouring rain and I didn't have my umbrella because I left it behind in London. So then I had to buy another umbrella there. And then I had my umbrella with me and didn't need it again for the rest of summer. So that was the one thing. Rain is so hard to predict. I don't know if there was a better way to go around that. Maybe a really lightweight rain jacket instead of the umbrella to take up less space. But
Yeah,
I didn't have it at the right times.
I bet there are things like I need it now I don't need it. I'm having a similar situation right now, being in between places. Things are fine, which things I have with me. So what is a city that completely surprised you or just something that was unexpected?
It's a good question. I think one of my favorite things about
Mhm.
backpacking was staying in hostels and getting to meet so many people. I have friends in like so many different countries now, and some of them I haven't fell out of touch with because it's been a couple years and I haven't seen them, but some I've stayed in touch with. I met a guy from Australia and he came to visit LA last summer and I met up with him when he was here. I met someone in my hostel in Florence. We were the only ones who spoke English and we became friends. It turns out we live 15 minutes away from each other and now we hang out all the time. We go to the same gym now, which is like a totally random connection. We would have never met living in the same city, but somehow we met in Florence. A lot of my favorite
Oh,
experiences in Europe were with the people I was meeting along the way. I think I was really open to meeting new people and pushed myself to break my comfort limits, starting conversations with strangers and being open to whoever was in my hostel and meeting people.
that's really cool to meet people that way. Would you say it was fairly easy to meet new people?
It depended. I think in general with the hostels, it was on the easier side because a lot of people who stay in hostels are solo travelers or they're traveling with one other person. And so I think by nature, people in hostels tend to be more open to meeting people. For example, when I was in Greece, I couldn't book a hostel for whatever reason. So I was in an Airbnb and I didn't meet any friends in Greece because there was no easy way to approach people in public versus in the hostels. Sometimes I was sharing a room with up to 12 people and we'd bond over the smallest thing. Like one friend, I became friends with her. She went to use the bathroom and I was like sitting outside that she came out and was like, oh my God, the bathrooms here are horrible. We started talking about how bad the bathrooms were and became friends that way.
Oh,
Yeah. So just like really, really random connections.
okay. I've never stayed in a hostel and I've always wondered. I'm a big safety person. So when I think about backpacking, especially if I were to go by myself, how safe did you feel doing that? And how was it staying in a room with other strangers? Was it hard to sleep? I'm curious about that experience.
So, in terms of safety, actually, the very first hostel I stayed in was in Berlin. And I had read online that if you're a solo female traveler, they won't put you in a room with only other men. Like, there'll be at least one other woman in a room with you. And I walked into my first hostel. I'm like starting to get nervous, like hitting in, like setting, like really hitting me that this is happening. I'm by myself now. And I walk into my room and it's three men. I started to panic. I was like, oh my God, this is not what I signed up for. I thought there was going to be another girl in here with me. But then one of the guys immediately introduced himself and he was really friendly. And he was like, I'm going to go get dinner in like 20 minutes if you'd like to join me. And so I went out for dinner with him and realized they weren't scary at all. They were really nice people. It was a little bit nervous still, like sleeping there for the first time. But then I realized it was totally safe. And I think the fact that there were multiple people and they were all strangers also helped in my safety. It wasn't me and three guys who all knew each other. And I was like, maybe they have weird intentions. Like, we're all just strangers and we're all just looking for a cheap place to sleep for the night and meeting new people. At that point, it wasn't so bad. Most of my accommodations were either all female rooms with mixed genders. I had a couple other ones where it was me and just a bunch of men, which were not my favorite rooms, but it was all okay. In terms of safety for my stuff, I kept my valuables on me. I had little locks for my suitcases, and every room has a locker, so I could put my stuff in there and lock it. I made it through 5 months in Europe, never had a single thing stolen from me. Like, I was never pickpocketed, never lost anything. I left stuff behind in the hostel. Nothing was ever stolen from my hostel, which was good. In terms of sleeping, it really depended. Some of the beds are not very comfortable. Like, some of them are rickety metal bunk beds that have probably existed for 60 years. And if I was on a top bunk, they weren't always comfortable. And sometimes people snored and had really annoying alarms. One of the men in my hostel in Berlin, he had gone to bed at 8 p.m. He had an alarm that went off every 5 minutes from 6 a.m. until I left the room at 8:30 a.m. The alarm was still going off every 5 minutes.
No, no, it's terrible for 2.5 hours.
And counting. I don't know how long it took for him to wake up, but for 2 hours, it was every 5 minutes his alarm went off. In a room
Oh
with
my
three
gosh.
shared room, you can't do that.
No, I've had a
So
roommate who did that, but it was just me.
it's still annoying, but
Yeah.
definitely traveling and staying in hostels, earplugs and a sleep mask are essentials. They are so needed.
Good to know. Yeah.
Other issues were like some people wanted the window open and some didn't, and some wanted the fans on and some didn't. When you're in a room with up to 12 people, you can't all agree on the sleeping situation. Some people were less respectful about coming in quietly at night or leaving quietly in the morning. So we're all on different sleep schedules. So there's a lot of factors that can contribute to not sleeping so well. But I think you just do the best that you can. You get used to it, do whatever you can to make yourself comfortable and just hope for the best.
Yeah. Oh boy. I'm a light sleeper. So this is making me think like, I like how you planned your route throughout because I feel like if I don't get enough sleep, I'm going to get really grumpy. So maybe I need an Airbnb for a couple of
Yeah,
days.
and
Just catch up.
I did a couple Airbnbs in between the hostels. It was nice to get a chance to sleep and have my own space and be comfortable. But those were places where I didn't meet as many friends. It kind of depends on what your priority is. But I think the balance of having a nice place to sleep for at least 2 nights every couple weeks was helpful.
What about the language barrier in any of the countries that you went to? Were there any issues there? Or do you know some of the languages?
Language, I speak a little bit of Spanish, which I tried to use in Spain, but everyone spoke to me in English anyway. I felt really bad about it, and I felt like so classic American, just like walking around being like, do you all speak English? Because everyone that I met from other countries, like I met a girl in one of my hostels from South America. She spoke 5 languages and was staying in Germany to learn German. like her sixth language. And I was like, I know English and I know how to write in Spanish, and that's it. Overall, the language barrier was not super hard. I think we're very privileged as English speakers that most people around the world also speak English. I would try to learn the basics for each country, like hi, please, thank you, where's the bathroom, the bare minimums. What was really annoying was I found that my language brain was one country behind. I learned French in France, and then I went to Portugal. When I was in Portugal trying to learn Portuguese, I was saying things in French. Then I left Portugal, went to Spain, and I was speaking Portuguese there. I was just one country behind in my language, which was not helpful.
So your brain was starting to get used to it and then you'd be in a new country with a new language.
Yeah.
What about the food? Do you have any favorite meals or favorite countries for food?
Food was so good everywhere. Yeah, it was a lot of really good food. One of my favorites, funnily enough, in Berlin, I found a vegan Vietnamese tapas restaurant, which is not German food, but it was so good. I went there twice in the 3 days that I was in Berlin. Going to Italy and getting all the fresh pasta and pizza was incredible. I took a pasta making class, which was super fun. Got to make our own lemon raviolis. I think if there are any other specific things. I think everything just tapas in Spain. It was all so good. Greek food.
I
One of
love
my favorite things that I tried, they had these zucchini fritters, which were like balls of shredded zucchini with feta cheese. And those were so
Ooh,
good. I had never had those before.
wow. I think I need to go to Berlin and try this vegan Vietnamese tapa.
Yeah.
Wow, that is interesting. I love
Yeah.
tapas and I love Vietnamese food.
It was great. I went with a friend one time and we split like 8 different dishes and they were all so good.
I bet. Wow, that sounds so good. Do you have any low points of the trip where difficult things happened?
Yeah, for sure. I got sick twice while I was there. I was in Portugal and I got a weird 24-hour stomach bug. I was in the hostel with 6 other people, so nauseous, which was just having stomach issues is never fun, but being in a shared room with strangers makes it even worse. I had booked a surf class, which I was so excited for, and I missed the surf class and a full day and a half of exploration. That was really not fun and pretty discouraging. And then in Italy, it turns out I'm allergic to Florence. I don't know what it was. I've never had allergies anywhere else in the world, but I was so sick when I was in Florence. And I texted my friend who's a med student in Italy and I was like, I need a doctor. What do I do? She taught me about doctorsinitaly.com, which is a website where you go online and say what your symptoms are, what you need, and they match you with doctors who are available to meet with you. And so within 3 minutes of filling out this survey, I had 5 doctors text me and I had an appointment within 15 minutes, like a virtual appointment. And within an hour from start to finish of me going on this website, I had had my appointment, picked up my prescription from the pharmacy down the street. It was all taken care of. And it cost $40
Wow.
for both the appointment and 2 prescription medications, which really just puts America to shame.
Waiting months for an appointment,
Yeah.
so much money for all of it. That's incredible.
Being sick was not fun. It's definitely a low when you're traveling and you can't just be comfortable in your own bed and rest. I think also in countries where I didn't meet anyone, like Greece, it was so beautiful and I was having a great time swimming, but I really felt the loneliness at that point. Doing things by yourself is fun, but it's always fun to have someone to talk to about your experiences. When it was just full days of me not talking to anyone, it felt a little bit low at that point.
See, that's fun to go swimming in Greece. It sounds like you have a good mix of meeting new people, being with friends, spending time with yourself. It's hard to get like perked up.
Yeah, for sure. It was definitely a mixed trip overall. I mean, overall, great trip, but lots of highs and lows. It was a 5 month period. There's highs and lows on a regular basis with your normal life, your normal schedule. And then when you're traveling, it just really amplifies all of that.
Yeah.
Still, overall, great experience. Loved it.
So you mentioned you had never had anything stolen, which is awesome because I hear a lot of stories about that. Did you have any sketchy moments during your trip?
Yeah, there were a couple. There was one night when I was staying in Rome and I was getting back really late and I had done a house swap situation where I was in some Facebook group and some woman posted that she needed someone to water her plants for a couple days and they could stay in her apartment for free. I don't think she was living in the nicest neighborhood. So I was walking back alone at night and it was pretty late. There were some men on the streets and that felt a bit weird. So I called a friend from back home because with the time difference, it was midday for them. There were definitely a couple other weird experiences with some men along the way. Part of being a solo female is attracting unwanted male attention.
Mhm.
But that was something I had anticipated. So I kept a ring on my middle finger that I could easily pull off and switch to my ring finger if I felt like I needed it. And I also had backstories planned. Like I had rehearsed, like if someone asked me like, oh, like, are you here by yourself? I'd be like, no, I'm here with my fiance. He's at the hotel. He had to work and I went out exploring by myself while he was working, but I'm about to go meet him for dinner. I just had that ready and rehearsed. Like I had all the questions that they could have possibly asked me. Like I prepared for those questions if I was ever in the situations, which I was a couple of times. It didn't seem like I was making up answers on the spot. Like this was actually my real story, which did save me a couple of times.
That's a good idea, especially being a female solo traveler. That worries me.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think having my husband or my fiance, having a man in your life, whether they're real or not, got me out of those situations usually.
And I hear a lot the advice like, don't say you're alone. To kind of switch gears, I know it can differ for everywhere you go and each person, and it's good to like budget ahead of time, but what might that look like? How much budgeting might somebody want to do or save for a trip like this?
I personally had been saving up for the last 4 or 5 years. So I definitely budgeted quite a good chunk of money. There's a whole spectrum, like there's ways to do it for super cheap. I had some hostels where I paid $10 a night, but they weren't very clean. Other hostels were a bit more expensive and nicer. The time of year that I was traveling, I think made things more expensive. So like I was in Spain during a big music festival. And so that jacked up the prices, which if I had known about that festival in advance, I would have done Spain later in the summer to avoid that price jacking. I'd say look for hostels. So when I went on my trip, I sublet my apartment. So I wasn't paying rent at home. I calculated how much my rent cost me per day. Let's say I was paying $50 a night in rent back in LA. My goal for traveling was to pay no more than $50 for my hostel per night, just because I was like, this is already an expense that I've already factored in rent into my daily life. So if I can afford that at home, I can afford it here, which I don't think I ever went over budget for my rent cost, which was really helpful. And then with food, trying to do like, obviously I want to eat out every single meal because I'm in countries that have great foods, but it was also helpful to try to find hostels that had kitchens and cook my own foods when I could, or do more of a bargain meal when possible. I don't think I ever spent more than like $25 on a meal. I'd say my average meal was probably $10 to $15, which is much cheaper than it is here, but does still add up.
That's the creative idea with subletting your apartments. Then you're using the rent for that. Just thinking of ways that you can save money at home for your trip. And that's incredible. You save for 4 to 5 years. Sometimes people have like a coin jar going to Europe funds. That's great because it can add up and you want to enjoy the trip. You would buy clothes and do a surf lesson and stuff. You could also travel very cheaply too. So it depends what you want to do. It sounds like.
I think also like, transport and also just like knowing what you're willing to do or really not to do. For example, I took a sleeper bus one time and that saved me a ton of money because it was an overnight bus, but I also didn't sleep at all. And so then I decided I can't do this ever again. I need my sleep. I'm willing to spend a little bit extra money to take a bus during the day than to take the bus at night. But if you're someone who doesn't need a lot of sleep or you can sleep anywhere, maybe you'll look at that and be like, I can sleep anywhere. I'll do the sleeper bus. I'll save money in that sense. And then I'll have an extra meal out tomorrow. So
yeah, I see. Are there any other tools or deals that you have found or that you would use to save money that way?
I think I would try to look at whatever the local app for transportation was. So like trying to find a train versus a plane if I could, or just like seeing in each country what the locals were using to get around.
Yeah.
I was a credit card point girl, booking the right credit card that gave me travel points in one country. I rented a car and my credit card gave me car insurance. Like I didn't have to pay for that separately. So that was really helpful. Or like a couple flights that I booked using points. So I think that was helpful. That was something that I had to prepare well before the trip, but then it did pay off when I was there in terms of saving money.
Definitely some good credit card points.
Yeah.
That's a good point. Did it change you in any way? Did you come back and have a different perspective or worldview from that?
I think one big change, it definitely made me more open to meeting new people. I've always considered myself to be more introverted, and I can definitely be on the quieter side still, but I'm more open to talking to new people. If I see a stranger and I like their outfit, I'll compliment them versus just keeping it in. I've made a lot more friends since my trip than I had before. It's just that openness of being willing to talk to people, which was definitely helpful. I think more open in general, just open to new experiences and open to saying yes to things and trying new things that might be scary, but knowing that it'll work out anyway.
Yeah, that's great. Is there anything you would say to somebody who is scared to do this, especially alone?
I would really encourage you to do it and try it. Worst case, if you're not having fun, you can always book a plane ticket home. You don't have to stay for 5 months if you don't want to, especially if you haven't planned out your full trip and purchased all your flights. You can always buy a flight home. If it feels too hard, you won't know until you try it, and it could end up being so much more fun and so much easier and better than you think. And also, yeah, remembering that like there will be lows and there will be hard moments and it will get frustrated, but there's also going to be such great experiences that you won't be able to have otherwise. I would do all the lowest of lows from my trip again to experience everything else that I experienced.
Oh, that's very, very encouraging. Thank you.
Yeah.
Some like quick speed round questions. What's the best food city?
The best what?
Food city.
Probably Lyon in France.
What was your favorite meal?
I had two really good meals actually. One of them was like little raviolis in this incredible cheese sauce that was so delicious. Another one, I went with a group of friends to like a classic Lyonese restaurant where they didn't speak any English and it was a set meal. They gave you these huge family style appetizer salad bowls. They passed the same bowls from table to table and you took a serving from the bowl into your plate and then passed it on to the next table. And then the next round was your entree, and they gave you a cheese course and a dessert course. They had house wine they made themselves. It was a very interesting and unique experience. The food itself was so good.
Oh, that was really neat.
Yeah.
A very nice community experience.
Yeah. It felt very homey.
What would you say is the most picturesque or photogenic place?
Probably Menorca in Spain. The watercolor in both was just insane. I'm a huge ocean girl and I love the bright blue crystal water. Some of the pictures, like I looked back the other day at some of these pictures and I was like, wow, like the water was actually that blue. Like that's insane that I saw water that was that blue and gorgeous.
Wow.
It's like in terms of like buildings and stuff, probably Italy.
Oh, wow. Water sounds incredible. Did you swim in it?
I tried to
Great.
swim almost every day when possible. A huge ocean person.
What country would you go back to tomorrow if you could?
Probably Portugal.
Okay.
Yeah.
What did you like most about Portugal?
I just really liked being there overall. I thought it had a really nice mix of towns and beaches, cute architecture and good food. I just really liked the energy when I was there, which sounds like kind of cheesy and cliche, but I don't know. Good vibes.
I've been to Spain and I didn't get over to Portugal. I once asked ChatGPT, where in the world, based on what it knows about me, should I live? Portugal was up there. I was so surprised. I never thought about that, but I need to go.
I found out when I was there, a lot of people from California are moving to Portugal. And it's like becoming the European California, I guess. Maybe that's why I like it so much as an LA native. But yeah, I definitely.
Wow. Okay. Maybe it was right. Maybe I'm going to end up moving.
There.
That's cool. Did you have a most chaotic transportation story or train ride or anything?
Yeah, I took a sleeper train from the south of France to Paris. It was an 8 or 9 hour train ride. I opened my room and there were stacks of bunk beds, but it was 3 to a bunk. So I was in a middle bed. So there was someone below me and there was someone above me. And I think there was maybe 2 feet of space between the stacks of bunk beds. There was no room to put our suitcases. They were all stacked on the floor where we had to walk. And I'd done a sleeper train before. I was in Thailand a few years ago. And the bed kind of like went in the same direction as the trains. Like the train followed the direction, like how you sit in a train, like you're facing forward or you're facing backward, but like along the windows, parallel to the windows. But the bunk beds in these ones were perpendicular to the windows. So when the train moved, I was rolling back and forth on the bed, and being in the middle bunk, I was like, I'm going to fall off this bed in the middle of the night because I'm rolling back and forth so much. And I don't think I slept for more than half an hour on that train. I woke up the next morning, looked in the mirror, and my eyes were so puffy. My hair was a mess. And I was like, this is just not good. So would not do that again.
Oh, good to know. Why would they put the beds like that when people are just rolling?
It was a very poorly designed train. I've done other sleep trains that have been totally fine, but this one was bad. And then an overnight also not great.
An overnight what?
An overnight bus. Because the seats don't recline. I mean, kind of a little bit, but like you can't lay down, and there's like so many stops during the night and people are on and off. And it was very chaotic.
Yeah, I've done one of those in Spain and could not sleep, had a really long flight, and by the end of it, I was falling asleep on people because I had not slept. Those are rough.
Learned
And
I need to sleep at night, be in a bed, travel during the day.
yeah, good to try though and see if it works.
New experience. I've never seen bunk beds and stacks of 3 before, so that was something.
Yeah, that's kind of scary. This was super helpful and so inspiring to hear your experience backpacking Europe. Every time I do one of these, I'm like, oh, I need to go do that right now. So I'm going to start thinking about my trip and how to balance it out between meeting people, going with people, having some alone time, where I want to go, stay in hostels, don't do overnight trains, and just thinking about how to budget it and pack if you're going to buy clothing.
Yeah.
And just think ahead about that. This has been so helpful. Is there anything else that you would like to share or advise people if they want to do this?
I feel like I've given most of my tips, but I would just say if you're nervous and you're feeling scared, just do it. I had such bad anxiety before my trip. One of the worst panic attacks I've ever had in my entire life was a week before my trip. And I was so scared to do it, but it's one of the best experiences I've ever had. I'm so glad that I went for it. It can be scary, it can be hard, but so worth it. If you're able to, absolutely go.
Yeah, it sounds like quite the experience. And what about, because this is the goal list, I ask people what their goals are. Is there anything that's at the top of your goal list? It could be anything at all that you're working
Really want to
or
get
want to do.
scuba dive certified and go diving around the world.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. I've always wanted to scuba dive. It's been a dream of mine forever. And I got to try a class when I was in Greece. It was one of the coolest things I've ever done. And I have been itching to go back ever since.
That's great. That is on the list. However, I've considered removing scuba diving because I get panic attacks and I'm scared about being under there. But we'll see. If I interview somebody about that, I'll have to connect you two, trying to connect people and make this a community thing and make goals more accessible.
Yeah. And if you know anyone who has specific travel questions they want to ask as follow up, feel free to send anyone. Or if you have any more questions, feel free to reach out.
Thank you so much. I should start considering how to set up an email for this so then people can ask questions. I can do my best, send information and field them.
That'd be
But
awesome.
thank you. I appreciate that. Is there anything else you'd like to share with listeners, like projects you're working on, anything you want to let people know about?
I don't think so.
That's fine. I just like to give this space since you've come on here and given your time. Thank you so much. This was so helpful and it's so great having you on.
Thanks for having me.
Of course.